This video is coming to life thanks to one of the members of our community, Sierra, who a while ago wrote me a message asking me to share some experiences from my speed bumps, how my speed bumps looked like, how I survived them, what kept me going when I was going through rough times. So yeah, I thought I would share this, and just maybe for someone who is just like new to this, what I mean by a speed bump, basically it is a period of time when sleep becomes difficult again. So we might start like having some improvement in our sleep and seeing some relief of anxiety and things like that, and then things get tough again, and definitely that's a frustrating place to be, and we all found ourselves in that place on our recovery journey many times. So yeah, and I know that being in the middle of a speed bump is of course like very like disorienting experience, because we are not really sure like whether we are doing things right or wrong, and yeah, a lot of questions arise, a lot of like unclarity appears. So yeah, I thought I would share my personal experience with my speed bumps, and what kind of like lessons I learned from them, and I hope that it can be helpful to some of you. So yeah, I wrote down a few points just wanted to share. Well, first of all, my speed bumps, they looked so many ways. There was no actually any sort of like pattern in them. One I know for sure is that I kind of like quickly spiraled down to having all-nighters. It was happening right from the beginning. The whole insomnia started for me from having an all-nighter. I had like side effect from a medication, and I did not sleep at all for 2 days, and that was definitely a very scary experience. And this is when like my brain learned like, oh no, it is actually possible that you might not be asleep for the whole night. And it kind of like I started spiraling down quickly to all-nighters, which was very frustrating. I was genuinely afraid that my body is not getting enough sleep, and I'm severely sleep deprived, and things like that just only perpetuate this anxiety loop. So yeah, I would say most of my, if not all of my speed bumps, they always had at least one all-nighter. There were some nights when it would be like half-nighter, or when it's shallow sleep and blah blah blah, but all-nighter was something that was kind of prevailing experience in my journey. So as for the duration of speed bumps, it was also different. It could last from 1 day to a couple of weeks even, but it was like, for me it's very difficult to really even define what a speed bump is, and what can be classified as a speed bump, because let's say you take 2 weeks stretch, and then you will have like 2 bumpy nights, and then 1 night when it's like actually good sleep, and then one again bumpy night, and so on and so on. So does it mean you had like many smaller speed bumps, or is just like one big speed bump? I don't know, like it's really it's up for interpretation, and each person can define for themselves like whether it's like one speed bump or many small ones. There is no kind of like set definition. The only thing is that like usually during speed bump we experience like increased worry or certain manifestation of hyperarousal. When it is just an ordinary sleep disruption, then we usually don't feel any, we are not emotionally involved in the speed bump. When it's just, or in this kind of like a wakefulness, when we are just experiencing ordinary sleep disruption that can happen to anyone. Yeah, so I would say that each speed bump for me, it felt like that was the worst thing. So my brain could always find something unusual about particular speed bump, and then it would try to persuade me that this speed bump is something new. It is something that has never happened to you before, and probably this is the one that you will not get out of. While I also had the same experience with the previous speed bumps, where I thought that this is the unique experience, this is something new, this is like unusual. So the brain was trying kind of like to push and pull, and in trying to make me act on it, and it always made a speed bump seem like it's unusual. Well, in reality, it was not. It was not any different from the ones before. Of course, like, you know, the way how they can appear or manifest can be different, but is the same anxiety, is the same frustration, the same urge to do something, tons of sleep efforts, and you know, the classic kind of like a scenario of when we begin to experience sleep struggles. So yeah, each speed bump always, like, it tends to feel like this is something that hasn't happened before, and maybe it's the one that you cannot survive, or you know, so on. But I think that thanks to the fact that I experienced so many different types of speed bumps, it was really like, it was wild, it was chaotic, unpredictable, and I believe this is how it is for everyone, essentially, or at least for many people. Having this kind of like rich library of experiences of different speed bumps helped my brain finally see that you can survive any storm, whatever you know, like the mind will come up with, or whatever the experience might appear, you will survive this. So I know that if I would tell this to myself when I was struggling, I would want to punch myself, but I feel grateful for all the speed bumps that were happening to me, although I know that I really hated them. I was so miserable at the moment when they were happening. So yeah, the mind comes up with the worst news. That's for sure. It always knows which buttons to push in order for us to feel really scared and motivated to do something about it. Now, another kind of like property of speed bumps, how I see it, is that I never felt, when I was in the middle of a speed bump, I never felt like this kind of like, yes, I'm doing the right thing. The clarity was not there in the middle of a speed bump. It was only after, when the speed bump was over, this is when I would look back and I would say, oh yeah, I know what is happening. So clarity was getting like online only after the speed bump. So during the speed bump, I always felt like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. So this kind of like hesitation, doubting, and so on, they were like very the companions of a speed bump, which is, I think, good news, because every time I felt like I got it, even when I was in the beginning of my speed bump, and I felt like, oh, I know what it is. I know I can easily, you know, live through this. Give me like a couple of days and it will be over, and so on and so on. So excess confidence in my abilities to overcome a speed bump was actually backfiring. It was a hidden attempt to control. It was this kind of like illusion that I control my speed bumps. And then when I would enter my speed bumps with this kind of like clarity and confidence, this is when the brain would show me the opposite. It would actually make the speed bump even more uncontrollable. So I would feel like, oh no, but I felt like I got it, now I don't get it, and so on. So it was very, I would say it's a very humbling experience. Like every speed bump humbles us in a way that sometimes when we begin to sleep better, we gain confidence, right? We know that, oh, finally I got it. I know how to master my nights. I know how to make sure that I will not get anxious, I will not spiral down, how to keep my speed bump under like some reasonable, you know, size. And that kind of false sense of control and a little bit like cockiness, maybe, I don't know, at least what it was like this for me. The speed bumps were successfully crashing that, which was like super frustrating, but I guess that was needed for me to learn that sleep is beyond my control. I don't need to really think about any strategies, because no matter what strategy I would choose, it would still not change the fact that sleep will come on its own terms. And I had to go through that difficult learning process of, having this kind of hopes up and then having them down, just to see that there is nothing I can do to control my sleep. There's literally nothing I can think, nothing I can feel, nothing I can do. So, which gave me this, ultimately at the end of my journey, which gave me this weird sense of relief, in terms of like, okay, there's nothing I can do, so it doesn't matter what I do. It's just like, I will just ride with the flow, and I will let the speed bump take me wherever it takes me. So I kind of felt like I was a passenger. Ultimately, like, I was even like having this analogy with this kind of train ride, right? Like when you begin to experience a speed bump, and you don't know when speed bump will end. You have no tools to control it, like make it like, okay, this speed bump will be short, this speed bump will look like this, and so on. We don't have that. We don't have this level of control there. So by trying to control it, we only prolong it. We make it more trickier. So for me, it was like really this kind of like train ride analogy was really working, because I was like, well, yeah, that's another speed bump. I'm just getting on and allowing this ride to take me wherever it wants to take me. I know at some point the destination will be achieved, without my doing anything. And I don't know when it will happen. I don't know how it will happen. I know it will happen. So in the meantime, I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do. It doesn't really matter. So yeah. Also, I would say that it also brought me quite a relief, also at the end of my journey, to know that I can do whatever the hell I want at night. Wakefulness, the time that when I'm awake and I cannot sleep, is basically a time resource. Yes, of course, it sucks that I'm awake and I'm like, I would rather sleep at that time. But at the same time, I felt like it's just a time resource, and I can fill it up however I want. If I want just to stay in bed, I will stay in bed. If I want to get up, I will get up. Watch something, not watch something, it doesn't really matter. And ultimately, I would say that even it doesn't matter if we do sleep efforts, like ultimately, like really, it's I know it can sound bizarre, but ultimately it doesn't even matter if we try hard to sleep, if we don't try hard to sleep. We are not changing the fact that the sleep is beyond our control. So whatever happens before that, it doesn't matter. So we can either choose the hard path, where we do everything with effort, with trying, and so on, and anyway, at some point we will sleep, but it will be like very unsatisfactory path to that. Or we can just allow ourselves to go with the flow, go with whatever feels right in the moment, and spend our time, in a meaningful, non-pressuring way. And the sleep will also happen. It's it's not like it will lead us to any different place, but the journey, the experience will teach us that our nights, even if they're spent awake, do not have to be like a torture, which can be soothing in itself. So yeah, and you can do stuff at night, it doesn't matter what we do. So ultimately, I guess this is like where the freedom, what freedom is about. Yeah, so I hope that this made sense. So just wanted to kind of like recap, like my speed bumps were different. They allowed me to learn. I hated them. I really, really hated them. Oh, by the way, emotions are okay. All emotions are okay, even the ones that are not pretty, like sleep jealousy, irritation, anger, frustration. They are all okay. Not liking something is okay. Offering yourself comfort in whatever form we see is right for us is also okay. Clarity. You don't have to chase clarity when you're in the middle of speed bump. Clarity comes as a like retrospective thing. We can have clarity over like stuff that has happened. That's where we can observe it. In the moment, it can feel like I have no idea what I'm doing. So it's Just know if you feel like that during speed bumps, that's normal. That's normal. I never felt clarity in the middle of a speed bump. Making mistakes, trial errors is completely okay, completely normal. This is what makes up the journey, helps us learn. Yeah, you can use your wakefulness as in a way how you feel is right for you. There are no right or wrongs, but generally speaking, I think people prefer to do more like pleasant stuff rather than trying hard and so on, because ultimately we do not have control when and how we fall asleep. But it seems to me that when we are doing things without effort, without like trying too hard, without pushing and pulling, this is when sleep happens more effortlessly.